Welcome to Modern Homestead, Alaska. I'm Jessica. In today's video, we are pressure canning beans. We are going to be doing this from the dry bean that we use a soaking method and all of the good stuff. I'll show you how to pressure can beans. If you've been with the channel for a while, I'd like to thank you for showing up time and time again and showing your support. If you're new around here, we take a little bit of time to introduce ourselves at the beginning of these videos. I am Jessica. This is my Modern Homestead. We're working on filling out this pantry this month, but that's not all that we share on the channel. We show the building process of this homestead from the ground up. We share our adventures, whether that's hunting and fishing and family and all that Alaska has to offer, as well as some animal husbandry. We have a dairy cow, some rabbits and chickens and all the different things on the homestead. And we just share with you what our whole life is here in Alaska. We hope, that's our dog, that's Blue. We hope you choose to join us. Let's get into the bean video. So we're actually starting this project the day before because for my beans, I soak them overnight. I grabbed a bunch of jars. So I have a dozen of the pints and a dozen of the quarts, and I'm going to process both of these for 90 minutes. And when I process the pints for 90 minutes, these will actually become refried beans, and when I process the quarts for 90 minutes, they can still be used as refried beans. However, they will be for soups and stews and lots of different things. So back in, let's read it, really, 2021, I put refried beans, or I put pinto beans. I just didn't have any other way of preserving them. So I put them in this 5-gallon Mylar bag, and this is why I teach on here not to process things in an unusable size, so that you can see what I'm doing. I am putting a half a cup in each pint, and then a whole cup in the quarts. But I have this 5-gallon bucket of pinto beans, and this isn't how I store my beans anymore. And so I need to, I've been talking about for a year, I think now, of getting through and processing these. Now, the reason I don't pre-wash the beans is because I'm gonna soak them overnight with a little apple cider vinegar, and we're gonna wash them tomorrow morning. The other reason I wanna do this project is tomorrow's my deep clean day. I like it when no one's here. I like it when Blue has gone back to his mother. He is currently running around crying. He will go back in the morning to Cody's house. We have split custody. It's the most ridiculous thing. Anywho, I want to have a deep clean day, and so it's no big deal to soak these, get them going in the morning, get them in the canner, and then run them through while I do the rest of my stuff. So it's not going to require a lot out of me, and in fact, canning beans is one of the absolute simplest home preservations that saves you a ton of money in the end. I saw someone's math. Now this was a couple of years ago. So we're paying, what, over $1 a can for refried beans, and it isn't even this amount. So it equals like a bag of dry beans would make 4 of these, and then however for $1 or whatever it is, that it's extreme what the price difference is. Plus you control the quality and the quantity, and then you can add seasonings and spices and the different things. I don't to our pinto beans, not generally. I might want to do that sometime because Aaron loves the jalapeno pinto beans, but it just isn't something I've had to do. So this one little project is barely going to put a dent in, I can read it, 25 pounds of pinto beans is what's in that 5-gallon bucket. So I'll leave these in here so they're easier for me to fill with water. So half a cup. There is that. Now to each jar, I have some apple cider vinegar with the mother. It's just a splash. It helps kind of break down the things on the bean that are not so digestible. It has very little to do with the canning process and a lot more to do with the belly. So just a little splash of that in each jar, and then I'm going to top them all off with water and leave them on the counter and meet you back here in the morning. Well, it's the next morning. It's my deep clean day, so if anything is awry or out of place in this video, too bad, so sad, oh well. That has to be my attitude. I do want to get these beans going, and so I wanted to show you what we're gonna do. And then of course we had a change up because I got a phone call from Aaron this morning. He literally got home after midnight. I have not seen him in 3 days, like his person, like I see him get up and head off to work or whatever, but I haven't seen him. Hold on, I have to deal with that. So anywho, Aaron called and asked me if I would make the quart-sized jars spicy for him, the jalapeno beans that he really, really likes. And most of the time they get turned into this anyway, and I thought, you know what, I have 25 pounds of beans to work through. Of course, because I have a giant bag of jalapenos from Costco. So let me show you what we do with just one of the jars. It's the simplest way of explaining. Okay, so now we're actually going to clean the beans. And remember, we didn't pre-wash the beans, and that's because we're gonna rinse them now. Let me get a So I stirred them last night. They like to stick in the bottom, but this is also the reason that I don't like to can the beans straight from dry, is I think they stick together so badly. At least the beans I'm dealing with do. So we no longer have to sterilize jars. These were clean jars to begin with. I'm gonna give it a good rinse and then go through the beans. And then the beans are gonna get put back into the jar they came out of. And then we'll add everything to it. So let me do a bunch of bean jars real quick. We're gonna start packaging up these beans. Everything's been washed, rinsed, ready to go. The first thing I'm gonna do is get some hot water going. I already have a couple inches of water in the canner, and then I have a huge pot of just straight water that's going to top them off, because we are going to be doing a hot pack method. Now, I thought maybe I would start with the seasonings and spices. What you would do if you just want the plain bean, which I do a lot of time, is 1 teaspoon of salt and then water. That is it, nothing else. So, because my husband wants these spiced, like, I don't make traditional baked beans with like the brown sugar and those sort of things. This is the bean that we make for barbecues. We love to just wrap them up in burrito shells. So for the 1 teaspoon of salt, I'm going to use this homemade garlic scape salt in each one of them. So we'll start with that. So because this is a same kosher salt that I would use to can the beans regularly, then it's not a big deal to use this as a flavoring agent instead of just a plain salt. Now, I wouldn't use maybe a store-bought seasoned salt because it may have some weird caking agents or something like that that might be strange. I'm going to use a little bit of chili powder, so I'm going ½ a teaspoon on that. Just enough to give it a little bite in the back of the throat, but not enough where it tastes like a chili bean. ½ a teaspoon. Now, after I try these, because they're gonna be fine, I've never done this seasoning mix before, so I'll document it. If we open them up and we find like, hey, I needed more chili powder or more cumin or something like that, then I'll just write that down, and the next time I tip these, we'll do the same. We're gonna do a whole teaspoon of cumin in each one. Now, cumin I do love, and cumin is a forward note on the beans when I just open the can of beans and throw them in the pan. And then I'm just gonna put all the ingredients in here that I would. And because these are canning for so long, we don't have to worry too terribly much. If you were to put meat or something in them, you would need to check the time frame and refer to something like canning, whatever it is, bacon or something like that. Onion powder, ½ a teaspoon of this. Garlic powder. So this is the last, I think, of the season and spices. And we're gonna try and let the jalapeno speak for itself instead of adding like red pepper flakes or black pepper, anything like that. So ½ a teaspoon, if I didn't say, of the garlic. Then we're gonna go here. I have some fresh peeled garlic, a couple of cloves in each one, if we can stretch it that far. So this is the last of the garlic that was splitting open when we did our big garlic harvest. And I just brought it up into the kitchen. I've been trying to toss it in wherever I can. And I do use fresh garlic when I make these beans. And then the other thing was I had peeled and sliced a little too much onion for the tomato sauce we did. And so I have just enough. I don't like too terribly much onion flavor, so I'm just gonna put a few little slivers of raw onion into each jar. So it's probably about, if I were to measure this, diced really far down, it's about a tablespoon of onion. I think if you were to smash it really small. But I do put a lot of jalapeno, so that needs to be rewashed. So we're just gonna take the end off. I'm gonna leave the seeds in my jalapeno, and I'm just gonna slice through it. And I am going to do a whole jalapeno. Maybe I need the thing. per jar. Okay, so there we have it. That's everything we're gonna add. We're waiting on the water to come up to boil. I will finish dicing jalapenos. I went ahead and checked the canner. It's coming up to temp. We have our boiling hot water here. I have some lids that I rinsed. I am ready to go. I did wipe down all of the jars when I cleaned up the seeds and all of that, but I do have a clean rag. So I'm just gonna reach in, and we want to give 1 inch of headspace. So what we're gonna do, these jalapenos are hitting the throat. That is fun. Okay, so what we wanna do is go in with the water and then just almost stir it together, getting everything kind of moved around a little, but making sure we don't have beans stuck to the bottom of the jars, but also we are bubbling or getting any additional air out. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna do that for all the jars. All right, so wiping the rim, brand new lid, and then a used one. We do not want to put the hot water in any of them that won't fit in the canner this round. So I'm gonna start filling the canner. I hope you can kind of see. All right, so I've pre-filled a bunch of the jars. I have this one. Just kind of moving the jalapenos down into it, the onions, and then making sure the beans are, like, you don't have a big clump of them in the center somewhere. It's making my nose hurt. A little more water. Perfect. Dry lid. I knew going in that I would do multiple batches, but what is amazing is the rest of the beans that are seasoned, they'll actually fit in my countertop canner. My nose is on fire. So for a pint, it's a half a teaspoon of salt. So we're just gonna use half teaspoon here and nothing else. These will become refried beans, which means basically we're over canning them. They become really smushy. They absorb all of the moisture, and we are putting them in for 90 minutes. I think it's 70, 75 minutes, something like that. You would normally can a pint of beans for, but I really want them to become refried. So same song and dance. Okay, getting the water in, and then using the chopstick here to make sure the beans are broke up, because even though they're gonna be refried, we don't want a clump of beans in the bottom. Wiping the lid, brand new, along with the ring. And then into the canner. And the canner is ready. Whenever we get this loaded in, we will get the lid right on and start pressure canning these. And then in the meantime, all right, there we go. I have the water ready for the countertop canner. All right, we have it ready. So there is, I always look for the arrow. There is an arrow right here on the All-American canner that lines up with an indent, and then you know you have the lid on right. Okay. And then again, pulling it up opposites. I went with the All-American canner for 2 reasons. Number 1, if something were to ever happen, it doesn't use gaskets other than this one rubber one here. And so the longevity of the canner is a lot greater. Not only that, if this pressure gauge stopped working, you can count, which is how they used to do it. They used to can everything, and going back to the old ways of doing stuff, they would count the amount of times that the weight was bubbling or vibrating, moving around. And so you can still use an All-American canner even if your gauge isn't working. All right, so it's in hot water, same temperature in the cans, same temperature in. Now we're gonna actually crank it up. We're gonna let this vent straight steam for 10 minutes before we put our weight on, and from there we're gonna do 90 minutes. While this is coming up to temperature, I loaded 4 more jars into the countertop canner. We're just gonna push high, open, close, lock it, high, and then 90 minutes. All right, really quick, I'm gonna put together a pot of beans. I'll see if I can, a little better angle. Okay, so I just have a few cups of beans that I rinsed and soaked, identical to the ones that we canned. This is sadly my last jar of ham bone broth. That is, what do they call it? Cowboy canning, cowboy canning, something like that. It's rogue, it's not an approved canning method. I have a thing of salt pork here. I buy these when I can find them, and I just pop them straight in the freezer, and they are wonderful. So we won't add any other salt to the beans. So that goes tucked in there, as well as I ran down to the basement, grabbed and rinsed a couple more runaway onions. So simple. Those will go in there. I wanted to get this done really quick because as soon as those canners start making the noise, it is so hard to record. They're so loud in here. And then I can get to my cleaning and just let these beans go low and slow the rest of the day. It truly only takes a couple of hours to make beans. I don't know why growing up I thought beans took all day. They don't. They only take a few hours. So easy peasy. Lots of onion, but they're tiny onions. So I grabbed a head of garlic. They're not completely cured, so they're easy to peel. So they'll break down. G-Mom, what do you put in your pinto beans?
My pinto beans?
Yeah.
Just a ham hock or something, some piece of ham or something, and nothing else.
You don't put onion or garlic or nothing?
Yeah, I usually am too busy doing other things, you know. But I like all of that in there.
Right?
Yeah. And I love pinto beans.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have pinto beans for dinner. How's that?
That's great. And
I like seasonings in mine, even though G-Mom, she doesn't mind seasonings, you said, right? You're just kind of did yours lazy. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple of bay leaves, some onion powder, just a huge pot of beans, so it can handle quite a bit of seasoning. Some garlic powder, just a little bit of cumin. Not enough that you really notice it, but just enough to give it a warmth. It's not quite cool enough today to run the wood cook stove. I wish it was, because it is the perfect place to cook these. All right, I added 1 jar of water, and I'm gonna add a little bit more to where everything's really well covered over. You can always add more water. You can do canned tomatoes. There's a million ways to dress up beans. So I'm gonna put these on. I'm gonna heat them to the simmer, and then I'm just gonna turn them to low. And that is it. We have our beans all going in the pressure canner, and we have dinner, and now I can get to my deep cleaning day. I got my house done. I still have G-Mom's floor to do tomorrow. And the upstairs, because during this challenge, it's made it a little bit difficult to do the whole house in one day. However, we got the beans done. And then the other batch, the last batch is going in the pressure canner. These came out of the countertop pressure canner. And I want to show you immediately, this is obviously like separation. The beans look perfectly cooked. And then when you look at the ones that are gonna be pinto beans, even though they're still bubbling, they're hot coming out of the canner right now, you can tell these are overcooked. And that is what turns them into perfect refried beans. Now, I don't know of a method, or at least I've never heard of one, where you never pre-refry the beans when you're going to can them. And then also we try not to, mill up or do the pumpkin. You want to can like chunks of pumpkin. At least those are the approved methods that I know of. So anywho, we got our refrieds, and then the rest of our and I'm not seeing any damage, so that is great. Our beans on the stove are done. Aaron just let me know he's on his way home, and so we're going to get to see each other tonight and have dinner. I have some cornbread about to go into the oven. The oven's preheating for that. I need another towel. So once you set them down, you try not to move them for 24 hours or until the next morning is generally good enough. Perfect. No damage. We did it. Woohoo! Okay, everything's hot and bubbly. Let's take a look at dinner. Oh, nice. Oh, beautiful. So the hand hock is just falling apart. We'll fish out those bay leaves. There's enough juice. That's how we like it, but use less juice if you don't like it that way. I'm gonna wash up the canner, and then in the morning I will take the lids off, check all the seals, wash the outsides of the jars like I talked about in the last video. Just like to keep them really clean. A lot of people are gonna mention putting vinegar in your canner. I don't, and the reason is I put vinegar one time in the water of this canner, and it kind of ate away on the coating inside of the canner. And I have heard, although I'm not willing to try it, I have heard that it'll also eat the coating of the inside of your All-American canner. I don't have any issues with the canner. We do have hard water because we're on a well, but even that hard water, if you just take some soap and water and a sponge and wash it, it all comes off. Plus, I want to wipe down my jars before I store them anyway. So for me personally, I won't use vinegar inside of my canner. However, it's your canner, your home, you do it your way. That is what I truly, truly believe. So I am gonna feed my family dinner. I am so grateful that you hung out with us again today. Well, we took 2 days, but here we are, canned beans. We've got them done. I'm so excited. That's a beautiful thing to put on the pantry shelf, and it's gonna go super far in the future. And I will let you know when we open a can if they needed more spice or anything like that, as you and I just kind of made up a recipe together today. So thank you for joining me. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, you'll get notification. Thumbs up and comments do help my channel to grow, so they are greatly appreciated. And I do diligently work to get back to the comments. A lot of times I'm filming or I'm gardening or I'm doing something, and so I can't get back to them right away, but I do try. Excuse me. I do try very hard for that. With that, I hope that you are blessed. I hope you find something to be grateful for. Like, I'm ecstatic, like a kid in the candy store. My house is perfectly clean. I have one piece of bedding left in the dryer. The laundry's done. The floors are swept and mopped, and I get to see my husband's face for the first time in days. And so I am gonna be ready for that when he gets home. That is why I'm signing off before everything is completely done. I just want to be able to relax and talk to him. So that is my gratitude, is getting to see my husband's face today and feed him a beautiful, hearty, healthy homemade meal, including I made even the cornbread. So with that, I hope you find something to be grateful for, and I hope you'll come back and you and I can spend some time together for the next video. Bye for now. A little home rendered lard in a preheated cast iron pan gives the best crust to your cornbread. She was watching the TV, she said. How are the beans?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet?
But I'm sure they're fine.
Okay.
I'm sure. I don't have any,
You don't have any doubts in me?
absolutely none.
Be careful.
Why? Do you have my truck keys?
Yeah.
Good thing I
Are you
didn't
allowed to
turn
put
it
your
go
fingers
anywhere.
in the food?
Here you go, Erin. Cornbread and
I think I'll get a knife and just take half of a deal.
how's that?
Quiet.
Oh, I mean half of that.
Oh,
I'll eat a whole, yeah, thank you.
give you back your
Took me a
cornbread.
minute, it took me a minute to figure out what you were doing.
I thought you meant half the bread. You want half of one of these?
Uh-huh.
Where do you want it?
Oh, right there will be fine.
Okay.
That's perfect, honey bun.
The rest of
What?
the half. There you go.
Thank you,
Enjoy.
thank you.
You betcha.
Yeah, there.
Beans?